Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
Quilts of Valor is a national foundation. It was started initially by Catherine Roberts from Delaware in 2003. I took an interest in it in 2005 and brought it to the Brainerd area to start a group here because I really liked what the mission statement was, and that was that a wartime Quilt of Valor would be presented to any veteran or service member who was touched by war. And we've been trying in our local guild to focus on wounded from Afghanistan and Iraq. So that's been our primary focus, and we try to keep our quilts around our area, Minnesota especially. In my working with places like Camp Ripley, I've found that there's a great need for these quilts, and they do a wonderful service to the veterans. I think overall, since we started in 2005, the Brainerd group area, we've donated or distributed about 1,400 quilts, which is a nice amount. Nationally, I believe they're up to 38,000 nationally. I'm a machine quilter. I have lots of machine quilting friends, and I talk them into helping us when we started piecing these things. So we are pretty much self-contained in the whole upper Midwest. We deal with our quilts and we try to keep them local, where the national group tries to help all those people who don't have access to pairing themselves up with somebody that can help finish the quilt. So that's their main goal, plus the idea of sending it to some of the hospitals that don't have groups in their area doing quilts. We maintain ourselves just through donations from the area. Quilters have a tremendous stash of fabric, and they like to turn it over periodically, so thankfully they bring it to us. We get boxes and bags of fabrics from people. We also receive monetary donations, which allow us to purchase perhaps some materials that we don't get donated, or it also helps me with shipping costs when I have to ship the quilts.
We get generous donations of fabric, and it comes to us in all forms, like grocery bags, plastic bags full of scraps, boxes full of fabric. People clean out things from their aunts and grandmothers, and when we get it in that state, it's really of no value. So we take all of that donated fabric and we press it all, we launder it if necessary, and then we cut pieces that are going to be of value to us, and we organize all of those pieces and we make kits, because sometimes people just want to stop by and pick up a kit. I'm cutting a kit right now, or working on strips that will become kind of a strip block quilt kit. It's a pattern that we sort of developed ourselves after something else. We cut squares. Cheryl is over there squaring up all kinds of littler pieces, because sometimes we use 3-inch squares, sometimes we use 5-inch squares. And so we are making the fabric into usable pieces. Now I couldn't get another 4.5, so now I'm doing a 2. And so we have another pattern that uses 2s, and so we pile the 2s and then we pile the 1s and we keep on going. So that's what I'm doing, and making kits both for us to do and to pass along to other volunteers, because we have a lot of volunteers that don't show up here but help. This is a sample of how our kits will come. Thank you, dear. And it will have instructions, and then all of the parts pre-cut to a certain degree. The kits are complete, so somebody like you, for instance, could just come and say, I'd like a kit, take a kit, bring back a finished quilt, and you're done.
When the group comes on a Tuesday night, we will start out perhaps making kits, which is the first step in using that fabric, and we'll assemble the right amount of fabrics pre-cut into a kit, all ready to go to a piecer. And we have wonderful shops that are what we call QOV drop spots, and they're across the state, where people can go in and pick up a kit, finish it, and bring it back to the shop. When they do that, they fill out a little slip of paper so that when it comes back to us, I know who did the piecing, and that will eventually go on the label. Then when we get them back, we make sure that it is the correct size, making them larger if necessary. We make sure that it has a pillowcase and a binding, and then we cut a back for it. Most of the tops we get donated do not have backs, so we need a tremendous amount of large pieces of fabric.
We have to check to see we've got a nominal size for quilts. 55 by 65 is the perfect size that we do. And this one's a little shy, so we if they're small, we'll bring them in and put borders on them. And sometimes we can get them, maybe they're unfinished work, and we'll come in and we'll finish them and get them up to the proper size. The other thing I do here is put the backs together. They have to be pieced. This one's just been pieced. We got a seam in here, and then we take it over to the seamstress, and then it gets pressed and I get it back here, and I match these up with the actual quilts, and then we fold them up, send them off to be quilted. The backs have to be a certain size too in order for them to work properly, so that's something that I always work on.
I act as kind of the coordinator, so I kind of deal with what needs to be done on a particular day or night. So I send out an email letting everybody know they should come, and sometimes I tell them what we'll be working on, either making kits or getting backs ready or piecing quilts or making pillowcases, wherever the need is on that particular day. My email list runs anywhere from 20 to 30 people. And obviously some can come, some can't. Generally our meetings, we get about 8 to 10 people, which is a nice working group. Once we get the backing and all the parts assembled, it basically looks like this. This is a bundle ready to go to a machine quilter. When they get the package, it has the backing, the top, there's a pillowcase in here, there is binding and the batting. So they get a complete kit. They quilt it. They don't need to do the binding and the pillowcase necessarily, but it stays with the quilt. When it comes back, then I have the wonderful ladies that will put the binding on, put the label on it, identifying the quilt.
When each quilt is finished, we make a pillowcase to go with the quilt when we send it to the soldier. And at this time, I have made tops, but most of the time now I'm putting the binding on and the label. And our label tells us who pieced the top, who did the quilting, and it also thanks our soldier for his service and that we appreciate him. And it has been quilted, and right from here, then it goes to the wounded soldier. And we also enclose a letter thanking them for their service. And then many of us have made a personal statement on this letter to the soldier that gets this quilt. And I have been fortunate enough to be able to give some of these quilts to the wounded soldiers when they came back, and that's really very nice because they're appreciated, and we often get a written thank you also. We just received a letter from a chaplain who is in Afghanistan right now, and he said, "Dear friends, we received your gracious donation of Quilts of Valor for our troops. Thank you for your thoughtfulness and for your support of our troops, and our mission in Afghanistan is greatly appreciated. It is always a blessing to know that the people back in the States are thinking of us. The support given from caring people such as you help us to carry on through the challenging days we face here. God bless you." From the hospital chaplain in Afghanistan at one of the hospitals. So that keeps me going, knowing that they're appreciated and we hear from them. But I've been with this program ever since it started. And I also have a family member that's been in Iraq and another one in Afghanistan. And my love of quilting made me just want to do things for our wounded soldiers.
I teach preschool at St. Francis of the Lakes Catholic School here in Brainerd. And I think for about the last 6 years, at Christmas time, I have my children do squares, and then we put them together for Quilts of Valor. And it's been just wonderful. We've gotten some really interesting response from some of the people that have gotten them. The kids think it's important to do this, and it's been just a really, really good experience for all of them. And I guess I got involved in this because my son's in the military. And so it's been just one of those things I can do.
I got involved with this because my son is in the Navy, my daughter's in the Coast Guard, my son-in-law's in the Coast Guard. Both my son-in-law and my son have deployed over to the war zone. So that's very important to me, and additionally my husband's a Vietnam vet, and I think maybe that motivates me more than anything because of the way they were treated. And it's just so important to treat these guys right. It's very important to me.
Many of the people in this room have direct associations with the military. And my dad was a World War II vet, but he would be, and he's been gone for years, but he would be really pleased with the program. And so I felt good about it. I have gobs of fabric, I have time, I have certain skills, and so it's a good mix. It's a diverse group and a really good group of very, very committed women.
I have contacts across the state, but mostly in the Northeast. Our state is divided up by, there are other groups around the state. So mine is the Northeast area. So I have contacts in Duluth, in St. Cloud, of course here, our outpatient clinic in Brainerd, Camp Ripley, family assistance centers, anywhere I can find. Even the veteran service officers will sometimes distribute the quilts for us. But I will take them to them with the package, then they distribute them. So we never really know who gets the quilts unless they write back to us. And it's pretty amazing, since all we put on the label is our name and Brainerd, Minnesota, for instance, and somehow these guys find us. It's just amazing that they look us up and thank us. And that's what really keeps us going.
If you enjoyed this segment of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org. If you have segment ideas pertaining to North Central Minnesota, contact us at legacy@lptv.org. Common Ground is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund by the vote of the people on November 4th, 2008.